everybody, this is Anna Vick, and this is a video created for summer 2022 for the FBA BIP paper assignment, and this is guidance provided for EDSC 614. So recently under announcements here in Canvas, the assignment description has been posted. However, I know that especially with several case study options and some of us working with students in real life, and just all of the different information provided, variety is good, obviously, for case studies, but it can lead to things feeling more complex. So with all of that taken into consideration, I just wanted to develop a guidance document for all of you that will help to walk you step by step through this process with our summer timeline in mind and some of the limitations that can come up for us as we maybe don't have access to students in person. So what I've done is composed this document based on the assignment description that was sent out to all of you. And this document will walk you through what each step for part 1 of the FBA BIP assignment entails. Parts 2 and 3 are papers that you'll write related to the part 1 content. So those obviously, you all are very used to writing papers. The prompt points are there. I do include a little bit of clarification on those at the end for parts 2 and 3, but the bulk of this video will be focused on part 1. So what I'll do is just move through this guidance document, and then I'll be sure to provide this guidance document to you all with the announcement that contains this video here in Canvas. So the dates for the assignment, obviously, this video lecture, we start yesterday on the 6th, which was Monday, or today this is being put out on the 7th. So really just at present, right, through the 7th of August. So the 7th of August is the final due date for this assignment. It also will be the last day of our course. So it'll be nice to see some of this wrapped up a little bit before that, but this deadline listed here is just taking us up to the very final day and that final due date for the assignment. So that's how much time we have, and you'll notice that we really do have 2 full months to get this done. So worry not. My hope is that this document will help you. I know many of you have already gotten started, but I just want to provide this before we work any further so that we're all on the same page and to reduce any confusion that anybody may be feeling. So for part 1 of the assignment, and again, this is going to be the most kind of tasky part with a lot of different pieces to pull together. By the way, there is a little point here about how this can all be submitted in one document. You can, copy your little images of data that you've charted and any other forms or papers you'd like to include and just tack those in with the rest of the Word content. You could also save that final document as a PDF if you so choose. It's really helpful to have it all in one place. So that would be what I would encourage you to do as you compose your final submission. So for each task, you'll notice we'll begin here with task 1. You've got a timeline. You have a note regarding what this task is, what do we need to do, and then you'll see a note for if in person and if you're using a case study to help you understand what you need to do. So task 1 is the operational definition of your target behavior. And the timeline for this is ASAP. We really want to figure out whether you have a real world student or whether you have a case study. What behavior are we looking at for this assignment? You may have already completed quiz number 2, or you may be planning to do so soon. Quiz number 2 asks you to operationally define a target behavior that would occur in the school setting. So you may select a different behavior if you want to, but it would make a lot of sense to use the behavior that you'll focus on for this assignment and operationally define it as a part of quiz 2. That's fine to do. So the course includes a lot of information in Canvas about operational definitions. So I won't go too in depth here since the purpose of this video is just to talk about the assignment requirements themselves. But operational definitions, obviously we're describing a behavior, a target behavior in a way that would be easily observable and understandable by somebody who had never met the student and had not observed that behavior from that student before. So we want this to be detailed. We want it to be related to acts that can be observed rather than vague or general comments or content. So again, you can use quiz 2 as practice for this, but you don't have to. So if you're in person, now is the time to select a target behavior. You'll see notes here that obviously, down here where it says remember, it would be uncommon for a child to have only one behavior of concern. If we're having behavioral problems, chances are there are going to be a lot of things coming up and going on. But for this assignment and for the FBA process, we really need to choose one target behavior. So think about what's occurring that is most impactful to learning. And this is just summer. We have a short time, so it's really important that we hone in on one thing. And for this course assignment, let's avoid behaviors that are safety concerns. So for instance, the example provided in this document is let's not use a behavior like self-harm. We just need something that's a little more neutral, that doesn't involve any risk to anybody, because this is a kind of an initial process and it is limited time that we have. And we may not have access to mental health providers and things like that to assist us. So we're just going to keep this really straightforward with something that's not connected to safety, as simple rather than a complex process. Okay, so we need to select one main target behavior for the real world student, and this behavior will help us to move forward in the process once we define that. For the case study, you have part 1, which is kind of a summary of what's going on with the child and some background. Depending on which of the 4 you're using, the target behavior might be more or less clearly defined in the part 1 document. So we have several listed here. I kind of went through and looked through the ABC and the MAS through the lens of defining a target behavior, and I added here a comment about what would be most relevant for you to look for or observe for each of these, depending on who you're working with for the case study. So my hope is that that information is helpful for you. There's also a website down here at the bottom of the first page linked to assist you with operational definitions. And I know that that's in alignment with what has already been provided to you in the course shell, but it never hurts to get some more information. So that's the first thing to do if you've not done it already. Task 2, we need to do as soon as possible, and this is to identify which measurement procedures you will be using. So there are 2 different resources linked here for you. Again, the Canvas course content gives you some help with this too, but this is where we're thinking about frequency recording, we're thinking about intervals with data collection, we're thinking about latency, thinking about duration, everything that I just listed. You don't need to do all of that. To be honest, for a lot of behaviors, frequency is the most relevant. How often is the problem happening? And then for many behaviors, duration might be appropriate to examine as well. Again, just for a simple basic process like what we're doing right now. So if a behavior that we're looking at is hitting, and again, I said let's avoid safety concerns, but what I mean here is, just kind of striking. Let's say that's the behavior and nobody's at risk of imminent harm. So if the target behavior is hitting and we're just trying to find out how often does that happen, we're probably not going to do a duration recording where we find out for how long is the child hitting, because oftentimes hitting might just be a kind of a one strike and we're done. So if that's what we're looking at, we need to say how often is the child doing that behavior. If it's elopement and the child is exiting class without permission and spending time, for instance, in the bathroom or in a stairwell, and unwilling to return to class, then we would want to examine frequency, but we would also want to examine duration, because leaving class and coming back after 3 minutes is a very different educational impact than leaving class and coming back after 90 minutes. So that's a place where duration would be relevant. Interval recording obviously is another useful strategy you may use, but really what we need to do is look at the target behavior you've selected. Again, look through these linked resources. It might help you to select a measurement procedure or procedures, and then identify how will you find out how much or for how long this is going on. So keep it simple. Again, one target behavior, and then develop a measurement procedure that's appropriate in relation to that target behavior. So again, below the resources If you're in person, there are some examples provided there, but this is everything that I just addressed verbally. And then if you're doing a case study, you do have a lot of different data given to you. For instance, Jeff's got some interval data. You'll notice with each case study, what's given to you is a little bit different because that's how it is in life, right? We come in with different resources, different things that have been made available to us, and it's not going to be consistent perfectly across every case necessarily, especially if a student's new to us. So if you have a case study, still think about what method will be appropriate for the target behavior that you've considered. And if you don't have data that you find that's really in alignment with that, you can create some and just fabricate that. And that'll be a part of your baseline. But when we're talking about task 2, I kind of jumped ahead of myself there because task 2 is not about creating the baseline data. That's down below. Instead, task 2 is about identifying what measurement schedule or what measurement tool you'll be using in the first place. For instance, frequency, duration. So the baseline data comment you can hold until a little bit later. And now we're on to task 3. I did send an announcement talking about direct versus indirect for the assessment observation here. I'm going to be using terms direct and indirect. So to start for direct data collection, ABC is a beautiful tool. If you're not familiar with it, now's a good time. If you are, now's a good time to integrate it. MAS is also something that's really important for us to be utilizing. So I would encourage all of you to be including this as a part of your direct observations and data collection. Okay, so when it comes to timeline, we do have kind of a progress check in Canvas, which is due by June 26th. So we want to see this content gathered, reviewed, and summarized in time for that by June 26th. If you are in person, it'll be time now as soon as you can, once you get that permission signed, to get going with MAS and ABC data collection. If you'd like to use another direct assessment tool, go for it, but I really am recommending that we integrate this MAS and ABC. If you're not sure about a tool that you want to use, please get in touch with me. I have created a little folder, and if you go to modules in Canvas, scroll all the way down to a folder called FBA forms, and you'll find a blank MAS form and blank ABC form for you. You can kind of tweak and adjust them as needed. So you may ask different people to complete the MAS. This is something where obviously more input the better. So any kinds of people who work closely with the child, it's good to at least give them the opportunity to fill this out. And then for the ABC, we need data for at least 2 weeks, which is why if we get started now, we still have plenty of time to gather that over a 2-week period. You don't have to take data every single day. It's best to have at least 5 weeks of this information collected, for instance, with your ABC, okay, to try it at least 5 times over 2 weeks. And the reason for this 2-week window is because if we only gather data for 1 day or for a couple of days, we might just have an off day, or we might have a really good day, and then it's not really a genuine and authentic picture of what's going on with this child. So we might see a spike or an improvement in behavior that's not really in alignment with the reality of what's occurring. And 2 or more weeks of data gives us more consistency. And when I'm talking about data in this section, I'm really referring to ABC data. MAS is provided to you as feedback by those who work with the child. Okay, so again, these are linked in the forms folder, which is down at the bottom of modules. If you just scroll. If you're using a case study, you will have MAS and ABC information provided for any of the 4 options. You're going to review what's provided to you and summarize it. And you want to have the MAS, ABC formal tasks done by June 26th for that progress check.